Hello there, good evening everyone, and welcome. In this video tonight, what I'd like to do is offer a logical alternative to the standard model of both quantum physics and cosmology. Anyone that's been watching these videos over the last few years must have come to the same conclusion that there's a problem in physics at the moment, and just about every video you watch, whoever's doing it acknowledges that problem. And basically, since the advent of the James Webb Space Telescope, all the existing theories have really gone out the window. Now, it started with me just on about 3 years ago. I was watching a Royal Institution lecture video by Professor Jim Al-Khalili on quantum mechanics, and at the end of that video I come to the conclusion that an awful lot of what was said didn't seem to make sense. Well, it didn't make sense to me, and because it didn't fit with logic. Now, I say that from the point of view as a successful inventor with patents granted. I've prepared patents and submitted them and got them accepted myself. I've got a background in both electrical and mechanical engineering, and I worked for 11 years in a technical government department as a technical testing engineer, troubleshooting. So I'm fairly well set up for trying to solve problems. Anyway, long story short, I thought, right, I'd look at a few more of these videos and see what people were saying and what problems exist, and see if I could find an answer to them. You know, I like a bit of a challenge. So after watching a number of videos, I was amazed at just how little is actually known about the quantum world and cosmology, and the existence of various things like the dark matter, dark energy. They still can't explain gravity. So I thought, right, I'd have a go at solving some of these problems. And I decided that one of the biggest problems why there's been very, very little progress made over the last 100 years, really, and certainly in recent times, there's been very little progress made. And I honestly believe this is down to it being dominated by mathematics. And mathematics are very important when you're working in any field of engineering or physics to determine distances and parameters. But any mathematics, any mathematical equations or whatever you come up with is only as good as the parameters that you're working with. Now, with classical engineering and classical physics, we've been able to measure things and test them so that we know what those parameters are, and we can construct equations to determine any specific model that we want to work out. Unfortunately, with quantum physics and cosmology, everything that is used to derive mathematical equations is pure conjecture. There is one thing that people tend to say is a constant, and that is the speed of light. Now, that is true in a relatively short time frame and distance frame. But when it comes to light that's travelled for billions of years, nobody knows, nobody can tell. And because of that, you can't rely on that particular parameter in any equations you do, same as all the other things like Hubble constant and things like this, because most of these parameters have been based around trying to prove a model that, quite honestly, is flawed at the fundamental level of the atom. Even the atom, the description, the standard model description of the atom is basically a fudge. Nobody really knows what's going on inside an atom, and we never will know until we can examine those individual parts. The only way that physicists have determined what they think constitutes the makeup of an atom is by smashing atomic matter together at enormous speeds and pressures, and then seeing what traces come off of the detritus that is ejected from it. Now, anyone with any sense will come to the conclusion, well, there's no way you find out how something's made. In classical physics, if we want to know, or biology or anything like that, if we want to know how something works and what it consists of, we dissect it. So we can take the individual parts of that. If you've got a car engine or something like that, you can take it apart to see all the individual parts, to see what it's made of and how those parts fit together and they work. That can't be done with the atom. So any model that is put forward is pure conjecture. My model is conjecture as well, but my model is based on logic, and it doesn't rely on things that are not really not based on any science. Classic example of the questions asked, why does the electron not combine with the nucleus? Because they're opposite charges and they should attract each other. And there's various answers that are given to that are not very satisfactory at all, because, it's said, the electron is not allowed to fall to the nucleus because it's only allowed to be in certain energy bands. And anyway, I won't go into that in detail because this video is really aimed at trying to introduce a concept, an idea of an alternative to the standard model. And it covers a really large range of subjects, as I say, from the atom right through to cosmology, and it will explain the things that the standard model doesn't explain. In other words, dark matter, dark energy, gravity, and I give a logical explanation of the relationship between the electron, so-called electron, because I don't believe the electron exists as a solid particle, and the nucleus. Anyway, I've constructed an hypothesis, a model that is based solely on logic, because I believe that if a model doesn't work logically in the first instance, chances are it's wrong. So I determined to put my mind to solving this as if I was solving a problem for an invention, something like that. Anyway, I watched a number of videos and I looked at what was being proposed, and then I thought to myself, no, let's think how, if we start right from square one and assume that nothing has been found out or determined about either the atom or cosmology, and look at it logically. And I've come up with this model, and the cornerstone of my model is that everything that exists in the universe consists of just two incredibly small monopole particles, or if you want to call them, monopole magnets, or material that has magnetic attraction or repulsion. And one of them is positive and the other one is negative. The positive particles will only be found in atomic matter, baryonic matter, or what I will describe as antimatter. Everything else that exists in the universe, all the empty space, is filled with negative particles. And because we know that opposite charges attract and like charges repel, because there's such a massive imbalance between the positives and the negatives, the fact that the negative particles fill the whole of the universe, any empty space, any space in the universe, is filled with a cloud of these incredibly small particles. And they're all trying to push each other apart in every direction, trying to repel each other. Now, I propose that these negative particles are actually what dark matter is. And the repulsive force that they produce in the universe is dark energy. I also propose that this dark energy is one of the forces of gravity, and I maintain in my hypothesis that there are two forces of gravity, and I explain that fully. Anyway, I tried for some considerable time to publish or tried to submit a scientific paper, this hypothesis as a scientific paper. But unfortunately, because I'm not part of the scientific establishment, academics establishment, or associated with any academic institution, unfortunately, I come up against a brick wall. Even Archive, which is supposed to be for everybody to submit scientific papers to, they insist that I need an endorser for my work before I can submit it. And if anybody's tried to get an endorser who is an outsider, well, you don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. So in the end, I thought, right, I really would like this to be in the public domain and be an alternative challenge to the standard model, which I believe just doesn't work. So I decided in the end I would put it into a book, have it published in a book. And this is the book. So it's called the two monopole particle universe. And obviously it's all logic. There's not a single mathematical equation in it, so it can be easily read by anybody that's got an interest in science and cosmology, and they're looking for alternatives. And I've purposely done it like that so that all the people that feel intimidated by all the mathematics that goes into all these other cosmology and quantum physics books, they get put off by it and they think, oh no, that's above my head and everything else. But it's not fair, because everybody's got to have the chance to be able to think if they're interested in the subject, and to be able to come up with ideas. So anyway, I've done that as a book, and what I explain in this book, and obviously I can't go into, because it covers a whole range, in a video like this I wouldn't be able to go into all specific details and everything else. So this is really just as an introduction to outline a basic model that I challenged the standard model with. And like I say, the cornerstone of this hypothesis is that everything that exists is composed of these two particles, either in combination or with the negative particles on their own. I propose that my model is based on a non-expanding universe, because I don't believe it's expanding. I believe that's misconceived. I believe that the cosmic microwave background is misconceived, and also redshift is misconceived. And I explain the reasons why I come to those conclusions. I don't think the universe has got an age. I think it has always existed. It will always exist, and it's infinite. And we can't sort of imagine something that's infinite, but I sort of accept the fact that, as far as I'm aware, as far as we can see, it goes on and on and on in pretty much the same form as what it is now. And I put this idea forward before the James Webb come on stream, and since the James Webb has come on stream, it is showing that in actual fact it's looking very much like what I propose is right, that the universe is in fact infinite. The idea of a Big Bang, and where everything started from nothing, and cosmic inflation, where everything that exists in the universe, all the billions and billions of tons of matter, emerged from a singularity smaller than an atom, and within a billionth of a second it suddenly inflated to fill the whole of the universe, quite honestly, is Alice in Wonderland physics. It just never happened. It's impossible. It's physically impossible. So we need to find answers to why scientists have come to believe these things, because there wasn't an alternative. And I believe that the answers put forward, that the cosmic microwave background is the afterglow of the Big Bang, and that the universe is expanding because of the redshift of light, they are misconceived. As far as the redshift is concerned, the Swiss chap back in, I don't know what year it was, I can't be bothered to go into all that lot, but his name was Fritz Zwicky. He proposed this tired light theory, and I think he was right, and a number of other people have proposed that since. And I've put down an explanation for it in this hypothesis, where I propose that light doesn't travel as a wave, it travels in pulses. And because it slows down, although the distance between those pulses stays the same, they take longer to pass a given point. So when you're measuring it, the frequency of those pulses drops into the red zone. The only figures that I give in this hypothesis is to do with the redshift, and I just sort of make the point, and this is if you're looking at a universe that they say is nearly 14 billion years old. Well, I say it's older and older than that. But if you was doing that, if you think about it, light emitted 14 billion years ago, the distance that it would travel, it would only need to drop 1 mile per second, and light, we say, moves at 186,000 miles a second. It would only need to drop 1 mile per second over every 140,000 years to virtually disappear by the time it gets to us. So it would certainly go from the ultraviolet end, or the blue end of the spectrum, down to the red in that time. So that's a good explanation for that. And with the cosmic microwave background, I also believe that light has a finite distance that it can travel, and also I believe that because we're only able to see back to a given distance at the moment, that is roughly around 14 billion years, I would suggest that the point where the microwave background is detected at that distance, this would be due to electromagnetic radiation or light reaching saturation point. When you think of how many pulses of light are being emitted over that distance and that time, and from every single direction, you must get to a point where you get saturation and you can't see past that. It's just blanked out. So, yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot in this book. As I say, it's not very big. It makes interesting reading. And I would like to propose it as a challenge to the standard model. I have actually sent the hypothesis to very, very many professors, both here and abroad, and to the people that do the YouTube videos. Basically, I've just been ignored. So I offer a challenge to them or anybody else. Have a look, see what you think, and prove me conclusively wrong. If any of you are interested and would want to know more about it, this is available on Amazon Kindle bookstore. It's available as a paperback, or you can, if you've got Kindle, you can look at it straight away. And it's, but if you look at the price of it, you can see I've not done it for the money. It just covers the cost of producing it. If you like the idea of knowing more about it, then if you would like, click the like button, or in the comments just turn around and say, yes, we'd like to know a bit more. And then what I could do some more of these videos, relatively short, because if they get too long, they get boring. So I could take an individual subject, whether it be the atom or whether it be redshift, microwave background, or whatever, or gravity, which I can answer, and explain that give a much more in-depth description of what I'm proposing. But most of it's contained in here. Obviously, it's only a brief touch on each thing. Otherwise, if I tried to go into details, I'd have a book about this thing, and you think, God, I'm not looking at that. But like I say, I offer a challenge to the academic community. Have a look, see what you think, prove me wrong. You can either type in the title, The Two Monopole Particle Universe, or if you type in my name, Tony Norman Marsh, it will come up and you'll see the details on Google. Okay? Anyway, best of luck, everybody. Thanks for clicking on, and hope to see you again. Cheerio.